Hey everybody, it's Livy from Kindred Reads, and I'm doing my October wrap-up. I actually got a lot of reading done in October, which was really nice, especially because I only read one book in September, if you guys remember, and that was really disappointing for me because I wanted to read a whole bunch and I just never got around to anything. So, without further ado, let's get started. Thing by Hank Green. And I don't know how many of you have watched, but I do have a non-spoiler free review of this book, and I'll link it down below. I kind of rant for a while about the character, but long story short, I give it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was an amazing book about modern times, about how social media plays a role in society, a huge role in society, and just kind of, I just loved every page, and I've admitted it once and I'll admit it again. I think Hank Green is actually my favorite writer between John and Hank, which is a really weird thing for me to say, especially because I love John's books so much. It's a really close race, that's for sure, but there's just something about this book, about the character, about how much I liked to dislike her, and how much I kind of felt for her, and just the amount of work I could tell that went into this novel. It blew me away. I did not expect this level of writing from Hank, especially for a first book, and it was amazing. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. My review's on Goodreads. You guys can go into that, or you could watch the video below. And I really want to hear people's opinions on this book because I loved it, but so as many of you know, I work at Barnes & Noble, and we had the book club for this book, and one of my coworkers was talking about how how old you are really affected what people thought of this book. So he ran the book club. I had to work, so I didn't get to go, but he ran the book club, and he said that people in my age range, the early 20s, late teens, that area, really loved the book. They thought it was the greatest book of all time. People closer to his age and their 30s, late 30s, 40s, somewhere in there, thought it was an okay book. They enjoyed it, but it took them a while to get into it. And he said that this is across the board, he said it stuck pretty close to this, but the people who were older, the older groups of people who read this book for the book club thought it was awful. They hated it. And I'm really interested, I find that really surprising. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's something to do with the technology or the character, or it'd be really interesting to I really want to go out there and just poll people and be what do you think of the book? And get their age and create a graph. I don't know, probably not. But it's it was a really interesting thing to read, and I was kind of surprised. Anyways, 5 out of 5 stars, definitely recommend, go for it. The next book that I read was Mirage by Samaya Dowd. The book that I read in October was Mirage by Samaya Dowd, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I can be bad at names sometimes. But things I liked about this book. I loved the world. I thought that was so cool. I was not expecting to love the world as much as I did. It's kind of it's just a really interesting mix of different cultures, and it takes place in outer space, which is pretty cool. And I just really, really liked the culture. I liked learning about the culture, but what kind of fell flat for me was the language of the writing. So the main character is supposed to be a poet, but I was expecting better descriptors then, because if they're a poet, you'd think they'd be really good at I don't know, but I just felt some of the descriptions were really dry, and that kind of disappointed me when it came to this book, because it's supposed to be about a girl who's a poet. And I went more in depth, and I had some examples. It's been a while. It's November, gosh, what is it? It's November 4th today, and I read this book at the beginning of October, so it's been a while, but I had some concrete examples, and I am definitely going to read the second one, and I did really like it. I was just a little disappointed on the descriptors, and it's the first novel, so it could get better, and I am excited to read the second one. I do want to continue the story with Amani. I really want to see how everything turns out, and I'm really excited to keep reading. Next book that I read for the month of October was Toil and Trouble. It was the group read for Spookathon. It's 15 Tales of Women in Witchcraft. There were some shorts. The thing I hate reading these because it's so many short stories. Some of these short stories I loved. Some of them kind of fell off the mark for me. All were really good. All I really enjoyed, and all I think did a really good job as short stories, getting us into the world and explaining things quickly so that we got there. I loved, there was one, there's lines that I've made notes, and like I don't usually like to write in hardcover books. It feels weird to me. I do it more in paperbacks, but I did underline a few things here because there's a line here that really spoke to me, that whenever I opened a book, any book, I became mesmerized, and I loved that. I don't remember which story that was in, and I just closed it, so I'm not gonna find it again. But I think I gave this one 4 out of 5, maybe 3 out of 5. I don't remember exactly. A few of my complaints were just that some of the stories weren't that interesting to me. There's a few things where I feel like there's just like a few moments in the books that didn't click with me. But most of them I really enjoyed, and it is something that I think I'll be pulling out, you know, in October for a good spooky read if I'm looking to like, and I might read a few of them. I might skip some of the ones that didn't really like sit well with me, but most of them I really, really enjoyed and I found really, really interesting. I loved the characters. I loved the women in this book. I loved them. They were so cool, and they were so strong, and they were so interesting, they were so diverse, and it was just so much fun to read. I read in October. Actually, I might have read something else first, but I'm pretty sure that this was, I don't remember, but we're about to find out. Anyways, I did finally get around to reading Saga, which is something that has been recommended to me for a really long time. People have been saying like, you've got to read this book, it's amazing, and I'm like, I'm getting around to it. It's one of the more expensive graphic novels. Each one's like anywhere between $10 and $15, which is a bit much to drop autograph because I read them so fast. My boyfriend's always like, well, look at the pictures longer, and I'm like, I am looking at the pictures longer. I absorb things so quickly. But I do tend to reread graphic novels a lot more than I read regular books because I just love looking at the artwork. Like, these pictures in this book are just so beautiful. And I mean, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I guess I probably should have started with that. But yeah, I mean, just the illustrations in this book are just incredible, and every page has color, and like the color is vibrant, it's beautiful, there's interesting characters, there's really freaky characters too that I'm not gonna. Favorite character is the mom. She is like so awesome. And the dad's funny, and he's quirky, and he's different. And, you know, one day he's like, I'm never gonna pull out my blade again, and then, you know, a second later he has to use it, so he like whips it out, and it's just, I have the second one waiting. It's gonna be on my, in the next video that's gonna come up, my November TBR. It's gonna pop up. The only reason I haven't done my November TBR yet is because I'm still working on a book that I started in October. I'm almost done with it. I really wanted to wait to do this and include it in my October wrap up, but I guess I didn't finish it in October, but I started in October. I've just been having a really time getting through the book. But yeah, this one was so good. 5 out of 5 stars. I recommend it to almost everyone. Like, it is so good. I'm sad that it took me so long to get to. I've had people recommend it for me for a long time, and I've just been like dragging my feet and getting into it. The final book that I read in the month of October, I believe, I can't remember, watch me like look at my bookshelf and find another one that I read during October and just completely like forgot about, was City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. I love Victoria Schwab so much, and this book was not a disappointment. People were sad by how short it was, but it is a middle grade novel, and middle grade novels are supposed to be short. They are supposed to go really fast, and I thought it was good. I love everything that she's written so far. There hasn't been a thing yet that I've read that she wrote that I haven't enjoyed. This was no different. Like, the main character, if you read my review on Goodreads, it's like, I talked about how like my favorite things about this book were the fact that, you know, the main character is a photographer, Scotland, ghosts, Scotland. Like, I love Scotland. I've never been, which is really loved this. It was so good. I loved the photography. I loved, she would use like Harry Potter stuff to like talk about descriptors, and I loved that. And like the main character loved Harry Potter, and that's what I love so much, that it was just, oh gosh, it was just so fun to read. And like, I did underline a couple things in here because I didn't make many notes because I don't like writing notes again in hardcovers, but underlining I do tend to do if there's something that I really enjoyed. But there was one moment in the book, there's one line that really got me, that really was just like, oh, right on the nose, really described photographers, because there are moments that happens like this. A lot of people are like, oh, why are you spending all your time like staring through your phone to take pictures of things? And for me as a photographer, there are moments when like I feel like I have an eye, I can see something, I can make it just, you know, if I frame it this way, it just looks so pretty, and like you just, it's fun. But there are moments where you just can't. There's this line in the book, it's, for once, I can't bring myself to take a picture because I know a photo could never really capture what I'm seeing. And I'm like, I was just like, yes, like that is, oh. And I loved everything about this book. Like, it was just, there wasn't a dry moment for me. That's what, something that I do like about middle grade books is that they move so fast. There's not a lot of dead time. Like, you know, there's not a lot of time for there to be like boring exposition or anything. It just moves, and that's what I love about middle grade. Is like, I do adore about middle grade, about that quickness, but like people complain about it and they're just like, oh, it's just a kid's book, you know, there's nothing deep, but it drives me crazy. Like, Ludwig, what's the last name? The guy who wrote Madeline, which is one of my favorite like picture books as a kid. He said that, you know, we're writing for children, not idiots. And, you know, there's other writers who've said similar things, you know, such as, you know, if you're writing down to children, you're doing them a disservice, things like that. And that's what really clicks with me. A middle grade book, a well-written middle grade book, or even a really well-written, you know, picture book should be accessible and enjoyable to everyone. Not because there's like things that go over kids' heads, but because there's messages there, or that there's interesting characters. You can write well and write, you know, a middle grade novel that people can enjoy. And she did, and I think Victoria Schwab did that. And I'm really excited to read the second one, which I think she posted that she had finished the first draft of, which is really awesome, and I'm super excited. But I mean, if I'm wrong, I mean, I'll wait. I'll wait for you. Anyways, so I'm pretty sure that's the last one. I'm currently reading The Book of Speculation, which is an adult fiction book. And I'm really enjoying that one, and I can't wait to add that to a wrap up or do a book review video over that. The only book that I have a video up for is An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I do plan on doing some more with the other books. I don't know when I'll get around to that. It is November, it is NaNoWriMo, which is a really busy time for me because I always try to compete. I usually end up, you know, falling behind later on, but so far I've been on the nose. I've done like a couple words over every day, and I'm hoping that banks up, so if there's a day that I fall behind, it won't be as damaging. I haven't done a whole much over. I remember last year there was a day where I went like 1,000 over or something like that, and that was amazing. But I don't anticipate that happening again this year. I'm hoping that I can complete it. I'm kind of working on 2 projects at once. I'm finishing up the first book, and then the second book is what I'm doing for NaNoWriMo. So if you're already following me on Twitter, I've been posting like little updates, or I've been posting like a sentence that I've worked on a day. On Instagram, I've been posting like that word count that I've been going up. And then I've also, like, you know, I've started showing some, like, you know, photos that I've looked up, you know, about my characters, like some of their styles, their rooms, that kind of thing. Things that I've been, like, adding to the project to, like, just get me in the mood to write. So, yeah. My October wrap-up, I don't know, I have to go to class soon-ish. Yeah, I probably should go to class. Anyways, I have to go to class, so I might not be able to get around to my November TBR today. I do want to do my NaNoWriMo announcement, so I'm going to be filming that next, so that should be going up sometime before or after this one, depending when I get around to editing and how much time I have to edit. And then my November one should be coming up shortly after that, or whenever I finish the book that I'm currently reading, so yay!